Alright, welcome everybody. I'm going to take you for a tour of the inside of my workshop. I built this shop a couple years ago. Started construction on it when I decided to move stuff from my attached single car garage to get it a little more secure and safe from my kids. One of my boys is outside now building, my 4-year-old, but just wanted to take you for a tour of the inside. I'll do some more videos on the construction of it, but it took me about 3 weeks to build it, and I'm still organizing things, but it took me probably a good, 6 months of kind of here and there on the weekends, and just finding homes for all my tools. As you can see, I have a lot of tools. This is a 12 by 10 shed. I built it on my own with just kind of did some research on my own to figure out how to frame up the walls and the roof and get the floor set. Like I said, I'll do a separate video on the construction. So I'll take you over here starting at the doors. I try to use every available space in here. So one of the first things I brought in, I had these cubbies that had been given to me, and so the first thing I did was put my spray paint and caulk up out of reach of my kids. Everything from my shop was kind of organized outside on tables, and I wanted to get that put away as soon as possible. The doors, I originally had clear glass on them, but realized that you could easily see from out at the road everything inside my shop, so I decided to frost over the glass just to give me a little more peace of mind about all this stuff locked up in here. The doors themselves, this door I've used the hollow inside the door to hold my fluorescent bulbs, some dowels, and some pieces of metal and threaded rod. On the other side, I've hung up my tool belts right now, but if I move these out of the way, you can see a little better that this is the kind of the kids' place where they can grab their stuff to play. I've got my fire extinguisher. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea to hang up my belts here, just makes it harder to get to that, but got the chalkboard there to write quick sketches or numbers down when I'm working on a project, and flashlight. There's the kids' pegboard for their tools, and I helped the boys build this toolbox in Cub Scouts. I'm Cub Master, and I do a lot of stuff here with the Cub Scouts as well as all the projects at home. So those are the two doors. Over here, I got this cabinet recently from a friend that was redoing his kitchen and asked me if I wanted anything, and I just had room for this one cabinet, but I liked it because it has all these drawers, and they were already had some dividers in them. So I've got my sanders in here and my cord drills in there. It's a little messier. I'm trying to get back in here to clean it up, but I've got some sets of wrenches hanging up here on the wall where they're quick to get to, and my levels hanging up right next to the door. I try to find a place for everything so that I wouldn't be cluttering up the place and piling things in. Still happens, but I installed the shelf over the door. I didn't want to make it too deep because I didn't want to get stuff buried up there where I wouldn't be able to get to it. So I've got a shelf, I think it's a 12-inch shelf, and got some clear containers so I can remember what's up there, and stored that up there. I built this cabinet in a weekend, several months after I had the shop built, and I had already put French cleats on these walls, planning on putting some different stuff here, but I decided the cabinet would probably be the best way to organize it. So I built some cubbies for these larger screw and nail containers and zip ties. All of my nails for my brad nailers and air guns are here. my book collection. I've got smaller cubbies over here for smaller nails and screws. And then a couple of pegboards here. One is dedicated to all my hand saws, one to some rasp, and mostly some measuring devices, squares and things like that. But both of these guys are on slides here. They can slide out of the way, and as you can see, I've got a whiteboard back there where I can do more detailed plans on there if I want to. They let me put a whiteboard in here without taking up valuable wall space. Then I've got these larger storage bins that were I kind of recycled to me. This wall back here, I've dedicated all of those individual little screw drawers that you pick up or collect. Mine just happened, this is the only way really that they fit in this shop because of the spacing of the studs, but they fit kind of nicely in here. So I've got some that have odd parts in them, some dedicated to small screws and nuts. This one's dedicated to electronics parts that I scavenge off of stuff, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and motors, microphones, small batteries, lasers, broken iPods, things like that. These are more of my switches. Open up a couple so you can see I've got some push button. One of those with the flip cover. Over here I've got wooden dowel pins, batteries that I need to restock, some more dowel pins and some extra junk up there. And then these are all some of my screws and bolts, S-hooks, cotter pins, drywall anchors, razor blade knives, things like that. I've got this Dremel. I actually use this mostly for Cub Scout when we do Pinewood Derby. I've got my Dremel, one of them over here with the extension, mounted in one of these small clamp-on vices. And I've actually got it's a foot pedal switch, but I've wired it up under here so when you flip it on, makes it easier when teaching the kids how to use the tool. To be able to quickly get to a on-off button for safety. And then on this countertop you can see I've got a sharp Delta sharpening station, my 8-inch grinder that has a real fine stone, and a little finer one for sharpening blades. This one I actually took out this grinder wheel and put a buffer wheel because it was the same as this one, the larger 8-inch. So my 6-inch has a coarse grinding stone and a buffer. So I kind of I think I have all levels of, or several, at least multiple levels of stones here on these guys. This whole shelving unit was actually built for my miter saw here, and I put in this aluminum angle iron that you can see kind of behind all this junk as a fence. And then if I move some of this out of the way, you can see it carries on down here with a tape that a stick-on tape I've put on the bench. And I've got, this is actually a window latch that I can slide, unlock and slide back and forth along the rail to set as a quick stop block. And I've got this drawer that I had to kind of cut down a little bit to fit in here. But this has some computer parts, some smaller parts, small paint brushes and modeling tools, various different parts. And here are my electrical connections. And these quick kind of fishing things that I can pull out quickly and take with me. Got a whole bunch of connections here. And then down in this drawer I've got some more here. I've got some fine electronic pieces in here. But if I drop down underneath, you can see I've actually installed some piping in here, 4-inch pipe that I use for my vacuum system. And I'll do a video showing the vacuum system later, but I've got shut-off gates over here where I can run everything, open up the different gates, and it goes. There's a switch system over here that lets me turn on my air compressor and my vacuum. The hum that you're hearing is an air conditioner that I actually have mounted up in there. I've got my Dremel pieces over here, some tile cutters. You see some clamps up hanging from the ceiling, or most of my larger clamps. The smaller ones, I've got some small clamps over here on this pegboard, and a bunch of the ones that I use most often are here underneath my workbench. But I've got, I think I've counted over 100 clamps. There's some corner 90-degree clamps that come in really handy when you're trying to clamp up some walls or like boxes by yourself. A pretty cheap air tool set, but it's gotten me by over the years, so I haven't really had a need to replace it because I don't use them that often. But and then here's my spool, quick spool holder that I made for my spools of wire. Just some dowel rods with some fender washers screwed in to keep them from falling out, and some inexpensive hooks that you can pick up at any hardware store. And this was actually my electronics workbench, but I acquired this larger tool cabinet from my dad and made space for it. It's a great place to store. I've got lots of socket storage now. Those are metric. Here's my standard. Got everything down from, I think, 1/4 inch or 1/8 of an inch all the way up to 1 1/4 inch. So I've got lots of good stuff in here. Pry bars. I picked this up, I think, at Costco, and I've added to it a bunch of metric and standard nuts and bolts. Got some ratcheting wrenches, punches, nails, or nail sets and chisels. My wife actually makes fun of me for all I'm actually using those right now. That's why the nut drivers are missing. Got some torch drivers that I usually keep pretty organized, but I've been busy working on stuff and hadn't had time to come back and clean this place up. Got a battery charger in there, and the heaters I use in the winter. Finishing nails are over here above the small 18-inch lathe that I've got as a gift for Christmas, and I use this quite a lot. My small drill press. I've gotten a larger one, but I'll do a separate video with all the larger power tools. I made a wooden top. It's also has the metal vise down there that this actually wooden top clamps into, with a fence and a vacuum attachment. This does create quite a lot of dust depending on what you're doing. So I love using this thing. I've got these couple of small craftsman cabinets here, some precision tools, wrenches and files down here. Got some of my other power tools, a grinder. There's a small modeling table saw. I've got a planer and a joiner down there that I only pull out every once in a while when I need it, but you can see more of the vacuum system. It actually goes through the wall, and the vacuum's on the back wall behind this stuff in a smaller shed attached to the back, so I'll show that later. This little rollout cart has a little 1-inch belt sander and a drum sander. You can see my little scroll saw down there too. I can roll that out and hook a vacuum hose up to it. Roll it outside where I've built a deck out there where I can roll some of these tools out to give myself a little more space. And then I picked up this table that I use for this drill press off of the curbside. Mine was thrown away. I think it's an old telephone table. But I kind of redesigned it a little bit so I could store my Forstner bits in here. Got some more bits and stuff down there. I built this simple, I know it's not very pretty, but it's a very quick and simple table to hold my lathe. I made it so it fit these kids' containers that I had. And put in some simple blade holders for my saw blades to hold and organize all the saw blades that I had. And over here you can see I've got that's a worm gear driven saw back there, and a saber saw, a scroll saw there, and then coming around, here's my main workbench. I moved this out of my shop actually, in my garage, and moved it straight into here. So I kind of designed these doors, the placement on this workbench. And I'll explain how my wood storage works into that when I go over how I built the shop. But you can see I've this one of the latest additions, small wood vise, and I added in some 3/4 inch dog holes where they actually fit the workmate dogs, or I can make some to use with this. Got my larger reversible vise here, the big one that I like to use a lot. It's got can spin around so you can use pipe clamps. And I put this one on here just because this is the first vise I ever owned. My dad gave it to me when I was a little kid when he built my first workbench, so I had to have it on here. And it actually comes in handy. I use it a lot more than I thought I would. Got a small 70 amp welder just to kind of play around and learn about welding. You can see the mask and the hoods up there. This window back here I originally made just attached to the wall, but now it hinges open from the outside with a simple little tie down latch. So for now, to kind of vent out some of the hot air in here. This is my power supply that I made from an old computer power supply years ago. Still use it, still comes in handy. Just flip it on, gives me quick 12 volts, 5 volts. These are more my electrical tools here. And then I've got all my hammers organized. I built this into my workbench. This is one that belonged to my dad, but I used it as a kid a lot, so I wanted to bring it in and use it here as well. Some inexpensive lathe tools that I have. I reused a bunch of Altoid cans, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with, to organize a bunch of small parts. My countersink drill bits, nut drivers, stuff like that. I've also got these cabinets up here. Cheap plastic cabinets, but they work pretty well. Put airbrush and pinewood derby stuff, and pop rivet guns, some extra meters, and soldering irons, and glue guns in this one. Here's the inside. You can see storing these small parts in these Altoids. But I've got sandpaper organized in this middle one by belt sandpaper, hand sandpaper, hook and loop for the different sanders that I have. And then plastic gloves and hearing protection. Safety glasses are all in here. I just pulled these drawers out when the kids are here. When either my kids are working with me or the Cub Scouts, and just pull these bin of safety glasses out that they can use, and then some sealers and glue. I wanted to reuse the surface on these old cabinets that I moved out here too, so I actually turned the doors into small pegboards that I could hang my cordless screwdrivers and all of my pneumatic guns. I've got staplers and brad nailers and some large finishing nailers, 18 gauge, 16 gauge, up there. And then I've got inside here, got all the finishes and some extra stuff up there. And then you can see up there I've got WD-40 and a lot of glues and adhesives in this Lazy Susan rack. Some smaller kits and stuff there. Got my C-clamps here. My 4-foot and 8-foot guide rails for when I'm using the circular saws. It's actually, if I move this, you can see there's 2 of them down there. This bag has actually an electric winch and some pulleys and stuff in there that I've used to move heavy stuff around the yard. Or you can see the caulk guns. Set on my battery chargers. It's down at this end. So that's pretty much my workshop on the inside. I'll try to do some more videos with a little more detail. Oh, almost forgot. There is an air compressor also on the other wall with the vacuum system. I mentioned the switch earlier, but I've got a coiled hose here that pulls down from the ceiling. where I can attach it and quickly use it, and that's extremely handy. I love having the air hose within easy reach, but I can quickly get it out of my way. You can see I put some simple task lighting up there over top of some of the things. So I think that's all of it. So I will make some more videos, and thank you for watching.